Hi friends, welcome to another video of Mule for Learn from D. Today would be the second part of the earlier video where we created this particular Mule project, and we demonstrated how we can use the file connector and the on new or updated file component from the file connector. If you see this one, so in case you haven't seen that video, the link would be there in the top, so you can click on that link and you can see that video before we continue on this one. Okay, so let's proceed. So this was the actual description which we discussed in the earlier video, and today I have also created a diagram which will show the uh, show a pictorial representation of this description whatever we have mentioned here. So let me just bring that one. So if you see, this is how it looks like. There is one organization with the name ABC, and then there is another organization with the name XYZ, and this organization uh, prepares, as part of their business requirement, they used to generate a purchase order XML file, and they will put it to the directory, that is put it to the directory where the MuleSoft is running. So this is basically a directory which is present in the computer where the MuleSoft server is running, right? So this is the local directory where the ABC organization will do SFTP put, and by using that functionality they are putting the file here inside this folder, and MuleSoft will do the transformation. If you see, this file is XML, and this purchase order, this is JSON, and that is expected by organization XYZ. So for this case, we to make it simple, um, we have used the local folders. So ideally, uh, for most of the case, it looks like the organization, let's say the for ABC, it will generate a purchase order XML and it will place it to its own server, and MuleSoft needs to get that from that server. So in that case, MuleSoft need to use FTP or SFTP functionality to get that file from the that particular remote folder, right? But here, to make this simple, I have used the local folders. So this is the source folder, as you see here. Source folder is this one, and the target folder is this one. And we are assuming that once MuleSoft transforms the purchase order XML to purchase order JSON file, then uh, it is the responsibility of XYZ organization to get that file from there. So for that, they can use SFTP get, and for ABC organization, they can use SFTP put to put the file to the MuleSoft specific source folder, and for XYZ, they can use SFTP get to get the file from the target folder, right? So that is how I have tried to explain it here. Now let's go to our solution in AnyPoint Studio. And before going to there, I would like to mention once again that for any integration tool, the um, main purpose of using that integration tool is to do the routing and transformation. Okay, so for this case, for MuleSoft also this is applicable. Whenever we see MuleSoft implemented in between for integration purpose, the primary functionality would be routing and transformation. So here basically we are going to do the transformation, because here only um, the format of the source file is different and the format of the target file is different. So for both source and target, the data format is the file we are using for representing the content. So that is it. For this case, we will use this vectorial representation, and we will directly now go to AnyPoint Studio. So this is the one that we already created in the earlier video. So here we would do some kind of update, and we will uh, make it consistent with the diagram which we have here in this. Okay, so let's update that. So first of all, I would like to update the Mule project name. So let's go to this one, and I will just try to update it like we do for I'll try to follow a naming convention. So here the source system is ABC. So I'll make it like this, ABC, and then the target system is XYZ. So this is XYZ. I'll mention it like this, and then as we are processing the purchase order, so I will make it as purchase order. So this is how I would like to make the name of my Mule application. So let's click on OK, and we should have our application name corrected. Okay. Now this file also, this one, the name of this file is not correct. So we'll try to update this as well. So let's go ahead and we'll try to update this. So right click on that file, then refactor, and then rename. So for this case, what we are doing is reading the purchase order file and transforming it to JSON, right? Purchase order XML to JSON. And the version 1, we don't need it here. So one thing I would like to mention here is we are not actually developing any API here, because this is a file processing thing, and this doesn't come in under the API functionality. So we are not exposing any web service or anything. So this is a purely an integration application development which we are trying to do. So just to be sure that we are not exposing any kind of API or anything that can be called from any other HTTP client or from the browser. So that is what I wanted to mention here. So purchase order, then XML to JSON we want to convert, right? So I'll make it like this only to, and if you see this one, uh, we will make it as uh, read. Similarly, that purchase order read, flow. I'll make it like this. Okay. So that is how I have just updated the file names in the Mule project. And now let's see these configurations. This we already updated yesterday. I mean, in the earlier video we did that. So here the archive folder we have mentioned already. And okay, somehow, so be careful with the scroll button in the mouse. So this is the input directory, and then this is something which I don't like, because this is a hard-coded name we are giving to the archive file. So for that, the good idea would be to use the actual file name, and then append the timestamp with that file name when you put it to the archive directory, right? So let's see how the current archive directory is looking like. So this is how the files are getting generated for all the files which we have read through our MuleSoft application. Now I don't want this to be read completed. I want the actual file name to be here in this place of read completed, right? So to do that, first we can do one thing. we need to actually get the actual file name which we are placing. Uh, whatever is being placed to this particular, let's say, whatever we place in this particular folder in the working directory, or let's say the source folder which we are using. So in the source folder, whatever we are placing, whatever file we are placing, that thing, that same file name I want in the archive directory, because that is how the project work actually looks like. Okay, so let's say we want to update that part. So how to do that? So to do that, let's say we want to first, we will check how we can get the file name, right? So for that I'll debug this particular uh, application which we have and the flow. So I'll put a breakpoint here, and let's see, once the debugger is ready, we'll try to just, okay, so if you see, this is our new application name, and now it is okay. So uh, let's see, did I, okay, so I have put a breakpoint here. So now let's see, what I will do is I'll take the sample file from here, Control C, and then I'll put it here inside this particular directory. So once I do that, it is able to read that, right? But the breakpoint is not. Oh, okay, probably I have selected the run one, so I need to select debug. Okay, so let's the debugger. Okay, so once you do the debugging, I mean, you select the debugging, then this particular window comes, this pop-up window, and to get rid of this one, every time it will ask you, but if you select this remember my choice, then it will automatically go to the debug perspective. Okay, so that is an debug perspective change notification it gives to you. So this one is now deployed. Now let's say we want to place the same file in the input directory. I already copied that earlier, so I'll just paste it here. And this time, if you see, this is the breakpoint that where the actual processing is now. So now what we'd like to know is, how can we get the file name, right? So to get the file name, let me just adjust the width of this particular variable and watches. Now for every time, whenever you are using file or you are using HTTP or for anything, if there is um, any communication specific attributes or property you want to search, for that case you should go to attributes only. Okay, so attributes is the place where most of those information gets captured. Now if you see, this is the one, right? So the best way to get the actual expression is the right click on this particular thing and select copy expression. Now how can you know what is the copy expression did? So this is the value. I'll just put I will do Control V here, and if you see, this is how it looks like, right? So I'll just click on evaluate, and now if you see, this is how the file name is getting. So now we are very sure that this is how the file name we can get. Now there would be another thing I'll tell you later, but for now let's just complete this debugging, and then we'll update our code. Okay, so in this, let's go to this one, and in place of read complete, we need to remove this part, and we'll make it like this. Okay, so now we will go to click on empty area in the canvas, and then we'll just save it. Now let's see if this should actually deploy our application, and it has already deployed. So let's go to the debug view, and then again I need to copy this input file, Control C, and then I'll put it here. And this time if you see, uh, let's say Okay, so our breakpoint is here, and before proceeding with this logger, I would like to check what is there inside archive. So if you see, these are the files which are there in archive. So this is the one that got generated today. So this three got generated today. So let's say I'll just remove this, all of this. So shift delete. I don't want to keep it in recycle bin. So shift delete I'll use. Now in the archive we don't have anything. Okay, so let's proceed with the processing, and this time it should create another file, and let's go to archive, and this is how it is looking like. But thing is that though it has, if you see, it has attached this complete file name in the archive. However, we don't want this .txt in this. We want the input file, then input file, then hyphen, and then the timestamp in this format, right? So to do that, okay, so let me just tell you what we want to do. So this is the file name currently we have. So let's say we take this file name. The archive file name is looking like this right now. Archive file name is looking like this, and what we expect is this one. We don't want this to be like this, so this is how we want this. I want this one, right? So and this one is dynamic. This one will come from the input file name, what we receive in the source folder, right? So let's check how we can do that. So what we can do is one thing would be to take the file name which is coming from the input, and we need to make sure that our file name is consistent. Let's say it will always have something like .txt or any other format that is having something like .txt or .xml or dot something should be there. So what we can do is we can take this file name which we are getting from getting using the attributes dot file name, right? So we can take this one, and then probably we can split it by this dot, right? So once you split it, then it will actually split this particular file name to two portions. One is this one, another would be this one. So that means an array would be created, and then we need to take the first element from that array. So let's see how we can do that. So for doing that, I will place another file in the input directory. So I'll go to test sample, Control C. I'll take the file and I'll put it here. Now once you do that, the breakpoint get hit, and then now what we can do is we can click on this one, and then we'll simply type attributes dot file name. Make sure the n is caps, and then if you see, this is how it is looking like, right? Now let's say we want to do it split by, and then this is we'll put it as dot, right? Now if you see, an array has been created, right? So if you see, this is an array, and the first element is input file, and then the second element is the text. So as I mentioned, that it actually splits by this dot. So the first element would be before whatever there before the dot, and the second element would be something which is after the dot. So and for MuleSoft, the okay, so make sure we need to copy that one, because it goes if we click anywhere. So attribute dot file name, and then split by then dot. Okay, something is wrong. Attributes. Okay, so now if you see, the index starts from 0, right? So how can we take this particular item? See, this one results to this array. So if we want to take the zeroth index of this particular array, the item from the 0 index, then we need to first put parenthesis to this one so that we can consider this, and then we need to do mention the index 0, then only we will get this one. If you forget this parenthesis, and if you do like this, it won't give you the result. Okay, so please make sure that, see, uh, this is multiple function, the split by is there, and again we have something inside attribute, we are trying to get the file name. So to correctly get the item, we always need to do like this. Okay, so if you do like this, then it will take the 0th, and let's say if we want to take the second one, this one, right? That is how we need to do it. So okay, so now this is the expression we will try to use in our archive file name. So let's just complete this one, and we'll go to the design view, design perspective, and we'll go here, and then instead of attribute file name, we'll make it like this. Okay, so this should correct our archive file name. So I'll just control S, and then it is deploying. Now it is deployed. I'll go to the debug view, debug perspective, and again I will put a sample file here. So test sample, control C, and then inside this I'll put it here. Okay, now this time I think we don't need the debug breakpoint here anymore, so I'll just remove it, and then I'll proceed. And this time our archive folder should have a correct file name, not the output, sorry. So this one, right? This is the one which got created, and the latest one, but if you see, we have forgotten the hyphen. So let's go to this one, and we need to put a hyphen there, right? Okay, so now how can we put the hyphen? This is a concatenation operator, if you see. Okay, so let's do like this, and then we'll mention double quote, and then this is how we can do that. Okay, so I'll just save this one, and then it should deploy. I think it is already deployed. So before putting another file, I'll just remove this one. So delete, yes, and then I'll take the sample file from here, control C, and then in the input I'll put it here, right? So once I do that, it got already processed, and the logs, we can see it from here. Okay, so from here we can see the log, the same file we are using from earlier video. Now let's go to archive. Now this is how it looks like, right? So we want to make it like this. Similarly, to check that, we can copy this one, and we can just paste it here, and we'll make it as, let's say we are making it as purchase order, because we want to go to that one, right? Purchase order. So we want to follow our diagram, this one. So this would be an XML file, and we need to convert that to the JSON. Okay, so we will go gradually there. So purchase order, and currently in this file we have, this is the content, right? Now what we will do is we'll take this one, and just to check if the file name is dynamically getting picked. So in the archive we have input file, so I will place it to the purchase order, and this got picked up by our mule flow. And then if we go to archive, if you see, it is purchase order and then on the timestamp. Okay, so we are good so far, and now what we want to do is we will now uh, try to write. Okay, so to write to another folder, we will use simply the write operation from this file module. So the write operation we will use, and for the write operation we can mention the path. Okay, so the path should contain the complete the absolute file path, that is the output directory along with the file name. Okay, so um, let me copy the output file name from here, output folder. So this is the output directory, so I'll take it from here, and then I'll make it like this, and then inside output again, what we can do is for now what we can do is we can just mention it like purchase order.txt. Okay, so for now we will do like this, but later on we will try to improve this solution. So we will slowly go there, like we have mentioned in the diagram. Okay, so this is how we this is the diagram we are trying to implement through our mule flow. So now if you see, this is how it looks like. Now to make our flow a little bit understandable, what I will do is I will just rename these components, read purchase order file, then write purchase order file. Okay, so I'll give it simple like this. Now I'll save it and it should deploy. So it will automatically, it should deploy. Okay, so it is deploying. Now let's check in the output folder. Basically we don't have anything now, so but after we place any file now, this write component should write whatever we place, I mean the file content, whatever we place in the input folder, the same file content should be written to the output folder, and the file name should be purchase order.txt. Okay, so let's do that sample, and this time I'll use purchase order, and I'll take this one. Okay, so let me just remove this temp folder because I don't need this one anymore. I actually created this one to demonstrate the recursive property. So if you remember, the recursive property is here in this particular component. So this particular property I wanted to demonstrate, so that's the reason I created this temp folder. So I'll just remove it now. So in the input folder we don't have anything else, so I'll just paste it, the purchase order, and this time it got picked up by our mule flow. And now if you see, this is how it looks like in the log. And let's check the output folder, and in the output folder we have the same purchase order.txt. Now probably you will think like, okay, in the input folder we have placed purchase order.txt, and that's the reason probably it is this one, but that is not correct. It is taking the name from here. Okay, so let me just, for our understanding purpose, let me rename it to purchase order for, let's say I'll make it as for XYZ. Okay, let me check our diagram. So this is the XYZ, this is XYZ, right? So for this one we are trying to put the file to this target directory, that is this one. So where from the XYZ will actually get the file purchase order JSON, but still we haven't covered this XML to JSON transformation. We'll go there. Okay, so that is I have renamed the purchase order, this output file name to purchase order for XYZ. Okay, now I'll just save this change and it should deploy. So let us wait for the deployment. It is done already. Now I'll just clear the log and I'll again, okay, so this one, if you see, I'll keep it here and we'll check what happens. And please make sure you record this timestamp 1829, right? This is the timestamp. So I'll take the purchase order once again, and from here I'll place it to this one, and it has picked. So in the output folder we now see purchase order for XYZ. There is a catch actually. Whenever we are writing, because earlier the file name was purchase order.txt, so it generated a file with purchase order.txt. Now this time we actually renamed that file to purchase order for XYZ, right? But what will happen if we place another file with this same file? Let's say we are putting it here and we are putting it inside this folder, right? So if we do that, let's check the output folder now. If you see, the output folder got this particular purchase order for XYZ. This file got overwritten, right? This got overwritten. So by default, the write operation property actually overwrites any existing file, and that is because the write mode we have mentioned it as overwrite by default. Okay, so that we need to remember. Create parent directory is true. Okay, so this particular create parent directory true, this property actually creates this path. In case we don't have this folder existing, it will try to create that and it will place that there. But for our case, we already created this path, I mean this folder structure we already created. So for us, this is just, I mean this is not doing anything because we already created the path, right? Okay, let's move ahead. So this is the one, and for the timestamp purpose, so let's say this is 1831, and similarly I want to place another file here, and this time we will check. See, this one got updated, right? So that means if we place the output file to this folder, let's say if we place the output file to this folder and XYZ is getting the file from that folder, so every time we place the file in the folder, XYZ needs to get that file immediately, right? If there is some scenario where XYZ was not able to pick the last file which was generated by MuleSoft. Let's say there is one file already generated and XYZ is not able to pick that. Okay, in that case, when the second file will come, MuleSoft will override the first one. Okay, so the XYZ won't be able to get the first file anymore because MuleSoft has overwritten that one. So we need to keep this situation, we need to keep this in mind, saying that XYZ needs to pick the file from this folder as soon as MuleSoft generates it. So that should be the responsibility of XYZ, because they are pulling the file from this particular folder, right, from the MuleSoft specific folder. So just make sure that we have this one covered. So in case there is some scenario, let's say there is a requirement that XYZ may or may not pick the file from this folder. Okay, so let's go, reset this one. So let's say uh, one file got generated and the second file uh, got generated after some time, and XYZ doesn't have that capability to pick the file immediately from this folder. In that case, if that is the case, then uh, MuleSoft needs to handle that scenario. Okay, so MuleSoft needs to handle that scenario so that in the target folder multiple output file can exist at the same time. So it should not override the earlier file. It should actually create a new file whenever the next input comes to this folder. So if so that is something we need to cover, and we will cover that. Okay, so this is how the real world scenario works, but we used to have so many other things attached to this solution, but for now we will keep it as simple. And this is how you can actually create the output folder in the output directory. Okay. Okay, so now we will just proceed further, and we will actually try to change our this content. Okay, so now let's say our purchase order, how it is mentioned here in this diagram, it is mentioned as XML, right? It is mentioned as XML. So we want to prepare the same file. I mean, our input file needs to be an XML file, right? So I'll just close this one, and then I'll create another file, and that should be having the XML data. Okay, so the purchase order data I will create. So let's say test sample and then purchase order. So the purchase order, I'll save it here, XML. So this is the file we will use. So I'll just make it, let's say I'll choose this. Okay, I'll use Notepad to open this one. So this is how it looks like. Okay, purchase order, this is the XML. Purchase order number attribute, order date attribute, these are the child elements. Similarly, okay, now this is the file we want to put in the so let's say this is the file that is being generated by the ABC application. Okay, so ABC is an organization, let's say, and it has an enterprise application that actually generates that purchase order XML file. So for our demonstration purpose, we are referring to that application with ABC, and we can also refer, I mean, just we are considering that as one entity, and we are referring it as ABC. Similarly, for that applies for XYZ as well. It is also having an application, enterprise application, that is picking the file from this particular folder. Okay, so this is how the data looks like, and I'll just close this one, and what I will do is I will just rename this to purchase order from, let's say, purchase order from ABC. Okay, so that is how I will rename it. And now let's say I am copying this one. I'll just copy this, and then I'll put it here. Okay, before putting there, I will just clear the logs. So clear console, and then I will put it inside this input folder, and as you see it has picked the file, and this is what is printed in the log, because we are printing the uh, this payload. So that is the reason it has printed complete content from that file in the log. And then probably it has already written that to the output folder. Let's check. And if you see, this is the timestamp that got updated, and if we open that, and we have the XML structure, right? XML content in the output file. But is it correct? No, because our XYZ organization's application wants the output file to be in JSON format, right? So to do that, basically we need to use another element, that is transform message, because here comes the transformation part. If you see, I mentioned this transformation, right? So routing is something that is, till now the routing was happening. MuleSoft application was taking, once it gets the file from this ABC application in its folder, it is actually routing that file content to another folder. So till now the routing was happening, right? But the transformation was not happening. But now we are actually going to do the transformation. So now we are going to do the transformation. Okay, so here I'll make it as transform XML to JSON. Okay, so now what we want to do is we are trying to convert the whole content from that file to JSON, right? So for that we need to mention in the transform, we need to mention, see the output. Currently we are trying to modify the payload, output payload. Okay, so the JSON, I'll use output application then JSON, because we want to convert to JSON format. So the whatever data comes to this particular component, transform message component, it will output that in this format, that is application JSON, right? And here we will just simply mention payload. If we do that, then it is, I will save it, and let's see, our application should be deployed. As you see, it is already deployed. Now I'll clear this log, and then what I will do is I will take the file from this one, purchase order from ABC, Control C, and then I'll put it here. So the file was picked up by MuleSoft, and then in the output folder, this is what got generated, right? If you see, this is how it is looking like. So it is completely a JSON file, right? So our purpose is done, right? Hold on, it is not done, because if you check the file content, you will see that some of the contents are not present in the, some of the data is missing in the actual output file. So this is the output file. Let's say this is the output file, and I will try to open the input file as well. I mean, input file that we have used is this one. Open with, and then I'll use Notepad. So if you see, okay, let's compare. See, that is the reason you should always compare your input with the output. So the purchase order was there, and okay, let me just make it like this, and this is how we will compare it. Okay, okay, so the purchase order is there. Okay, purchase order is there. Purchase order number, where is purchase order number? It's not there, right? Oh, purchase order number is missing in the output file. Then similarly, address is there, very good. Type missing. Name is there, street there. So if you see, every time the XML attribute, wherever the XML attribute is there inside the input file, that is not coming in the output, right? So that means our purchase order for XYZ output file is not correct, because it is missing some of the elements from the input file. So what should we do? We need to correct that, right? Definitely we need to correct it, and we will correct it. Okay, so we need to update our this transform message code little bit more. So what we can do is, because if you see the input file, which is sorry, that is the output file, input file is this one. So we want the attributes from the input file, XML attributes from the input file, to be returned to the output file as well, right? So for that we need to update a simple property, that is write attribute. Write attributes equal to true. Okay, so that is the one that is needed, and this will enable the attributes to be returned to the output file as well. Okay, so let's check. Our application got deployed. So if you see, these are the deployment log, so it is already deployed now. So now what I will do is, I'll close this one, and I will close this one as well, and then I'll go to sample file. I'll take this one, Control C, copy, and then I'll put it. Okay, so before that, let me just clear the logs. Okay, better thing would be to log the output also. So I'll just put a logger here, and I'll mention it as payload, and that way we will be able to know what is getting written to the output file, right? So let me just save this one, Control S. Okay, so is it deployed? Yeah, it is deployed. Now I'll go to here and I'll just paste it. So once I do that, if you see, the JSON also got printed to the log, and this time the purchase order number is there, order date is there, type is there, everything which was present in the attribute section, that is present there, right? So let's compare. Okay, so this is the XML, and let's see what got generated to the output, and this is the one. So 650, this is the one, and open notepad, and so this one is the output file, and this one is the input file. So let's check if everything looks good. If you see, purchase order, purchase order, purchase order number, purchase order number, order date, then address is there, type is there. So that means the attributes are also coming, right? Okay, so pretty much aligned with our diagram, right? So the source folder, target folder we have used. Okay, so this actually, this name we have already updated, so please make sure that you use the corrected name. And our file is getting generated. Okay, so this part we are still not covering, we will cover it later. And apart from that, we are converting the XML to JSON, and we are also doing the routing, that is from the source folder. MuleSoft application is taking the file and it is then placing it to the target folder, right? Okay, so that is it for today, and see you tomorrow with a new video. Thank you.